Hello, everybody. I am glad to be here. Learning a lot. Um, it's amazing how your body can put you in a state. So, what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to get myself straight here. I am Brenda Jean, Power Medicine Woman, and am I still a medicine woman? Yeah. I'm a metaphysician, and one of the things that I do is I begin to see and read and understand what's going on. It's so funny because it's like this: not good with math or English, any of the stuff that's in the left brain studious aspect. But boy, can my right brain pick up things that nobody can see and completely understand it. Like when I pick up a deck of cards and I'm holding them, I go from 1 to 12, right? No, that's what you all do. I go from 12 to 1, and my brain sees it this way. And I find it very funny because it's like, what? So I've learned to live in a world where I can see more from this perspective or this aim of how my brain sees things and can understand them. So it's like, how do I explain? How do I talk? How do I get this point across, or at least share my world? I don't know why I'm so crooked. Share my world with you so that you can replicate what I do. And that's what's important to understand. So most of you will go and learn about, I'm all over the place right now, learning about what ego mindset is. Okay, so let's say some of you get this. And the other part is, how do you maintain it? Well, this is where it gets more complicated, because it's very important for you to look at a very specific way of doing things to yourself, to others. What did you learn in your conditioning experience? What did you, how did you be? What did you learn? So like, for instance, growing up in my house, it was just guilt tripping, gaslighting. And when that happens, it's like, I don't know how to explain it. All I ever saw was living with crazy people. I thought it was just negativity, but it's not. It's like living with crazy people. Everybody has their main issues. Everybody, their nerves can't handle it. And this is what I grew up with. And the one that has stood out forever is I sat and was raised by my siblings. And yet I had to watch how my siblings operated to get what they wanted. Would be the never-ending fight. Now, I don't know if there's a specific word for it. And I don't know who I saw it from, but it was funny because it's like, if it's not in my household, I would go into the neighbor's household and they would start up. And it's like, no matter where I went, it was, you have to watch this argument. And it's like, I think it got on my nerves. I think that's what was making me physically sick when I lived in Michigan, is that people just don't understand their behavior. So when you're part of waking up, you need to understand words that you use. You need to understand, if you're doing self-justification so you don't go crazy, because we don't want to, because we all need to get back to safety, security, stability, sanity, serenity, and space, which is freedom. Otherwise, we keep projecting out stories out there to so you can see over and over and over. And some of you have worked really hard at getting those emotions under control. But what if the outside is just a big pain in the ass? What if the outside is that you have to deal with other people? What if the outside just seems like, what the F is going on? I'm doing all the tools. I'm doing all of this. What the hell? Well, when it comes to interacting with other people, you have to wake up just a little bit further. Yes, that means you have to do the work a little bit more. So for me, gaslighting, guilt tripping, and Spirit has allowed me to see things and understand them. Oh, that's why I feel naked. On such a deeper level. And I finally think I got it. I finally think I understand just a little bit more of what's going on. And one big thing is, so I want you to imagine that you see a child do this, but then you got to see yourself do it. What happens when feelings are so out of control? You don't know what to do with them. The first stage of the game, see, this is why I feel like social intelligence needs to really be taught and developed, but I'm not even sure where this should even start, because let's say you have a 2-year-old that looks over and energetically sees something. Now, this is how kids see. They see energetically. And let's say you say, don't touch that, or you're over in your mind going, oh, don't you dare touch it. Energy is what we read, hear, and see. Our sensory system picks up the oscillation, the vibration, the frequencies, and it's all about those communications with numbers, dimensions, all of it. Your level of consciousness, which is your chakras, everything speaks and communicates and is interwoven so deeply. But just think energy. So growing up, my kids would, I would like going, oh, don't touch that, don't touch that, and they would just zero in. I swear to God, it glows. Beelines for it. And you're like, I didn't even say anything. I started watching this. And so when I'd be like, oh God, don't look at that. And then all of a sudden I'd be putting 10, I'm putting energy over here. My kids could feel what I didn't want them to see or touch or do. And I'm like, dang it. And I finally realized a little bit more of that feeling of, oh, don't touch that. Look over there. This had no power. This had a lot. So it's in the way that you think. And it's like, okay, I had to learn, like I wanted to go to the bathroom, but my God, you got little fingers at the door and, it's bad when your cats come following. Well, when your kid's wanting to bust in and you're like, can I just have a little private time? Mommy needs just a little private time. What? Oh, you don't love me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh my God, there's the guilt trip. And then it's like, okay, because they have an idea. They want what they want. And this is the things we have to unlearn and change the programs inside so that we can produce a better rings out or the people in front of us. And if it's persistent, that means that you have to get into the understanding and not just the feel of the energy that is speaking volumes. Between here and here, here's God. And God went in one day and decided, I'm going to contemplate, goes in and creates a mirror image. Hello, a mirror copy. The only difference between God and us is that, okay, I need you to record all of your adventures. And here is a soul. So we all have a soul. Now, many difference is that, well, some of us won't come to the earth right away. And some of us will repeat so many times until we can't handle it anymore. And then we wait. And then other souls will go. And they're the adventures. Okay, so why is that? Well, between this, the mirror consciousness, that's all there is to some degree, consciousness. And a mirror consciousness is to be able to see what it is we've experienced, holding on to, still repeating, can't develop from. We've only adjusted, could never adapt. Now you want to change that from, I got to adjust, because that just means compromise and you're losing the energy and you have to repeat the same shit. You're like this. No, you want to be able to adapt so that you can always come back to center. So let's say you're on the receiving end of this. So my kids would see something, or the kids I would babysit would see something, or I'm over and watching other kids, and I can watch. They're looking, and they're building a relationship emotionally without really words per se. And they just know they are now got to have it, even if it's a turd, they don't know. And if you're told no too many times, then you're going to get it in your head that, well, if they say no, then that means yes. Or if you're mixed match energy, then that seems to be worse. Okay. And you also have to look at, with the paradigms out there, we're really looking at the word sadistic. I just take that for a moment, and some of you are like, oh, I know I've heard that word, but I don't really know what that means. What does sadistic mean? And well, it's a person who derives pleasure, okay, from inflicting pain or humiliation on others. And the masochistic is trained to some degree to enjoy the pain, because it's not about enjoying the pain, it's the where did my joy go, which derives into that pleasure. And the only way you can get it on the strategy is you have to go through this pain to get to it. So let's say, because we're all addicted to these energies, and some of them are labeled all kinds of emotions. And if you don't believe so, what are thrill seekers? Those that will do the extreme thrills to get they'll go through the worst things in the world to get that thrill. Okay. But what about if, oh God, you should have seen it. I stuck it to him. Oh my God. Again, it goes back to emotions and feelings. And if we don't know where our happiness went, then the end game will stay the same until you wake up and you realize, uh-oh, what is my end game? I have no direction. I have no place to go. But if you've ever watched the Avengers, and before you get to the last end of the movie, the other end of the movie, Dr. Strange is going through his mind, but how can we fix the issue? How can this end in a very better way? The enemy loses, we win. And he goes through and he goes through and he goes through, and then he comes back and he says, oh my God. And I can't remember even what that number is. Maybe some of you remember. I can't remember. It's in the thousands of all the different endings. Different ending. Failed. There's the one. Now, in quantum physics, you can't really share, you can't observe, you can't do this, or you can change the outcome. So, how do we change the outcome? When I ask you about why do you want healing, it's actually a feeling. You ask yourself several times, boom, 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 boom. Why do you want that? Why do you want that? Why is that? Why is that? And you're looking for the why. You're looking for the feels of the why. And you keep going until all of a sudden you want, yeah, that's what I want. So like to do with anything to business, you want to sell something, you want the end product, and then you have to build backwards by starting from the, how to get the why, how to get to that. It's the same thing in your life. But if you don't know where you've misplaced or invested your willpower, gave it away, experienced it in a certain way, then you're going to feel like you're crazy. And it's not. So I grew up in a household. I can change your behavior before you can change mine. And it's in the maneuvers and the tactics. Now, when you begin to start developing this RTJP, the right temporal projection parietal lobe, it is to think what other people think. as you begin to do that so that you can have social skills or, but a lot of times people are like, well, I can outsmart my parents. I'm going to get that particular thing. And you will do whatever it is that you can. And to the point where if you can't get it, you'll go into self-preservation. It is the complete meltdown that takes you to the next level of, if you've ever been around people that do this, they can get vicious, say things, do things that are very mean. You're like, I never thought they would ever stoop to that level. But when you're in self-preservation, you know you don't want to do something and you're forced to do it. You'll do anything to the ends of the earth. Try taking somebody that's old and you have to put them in a nursing home. Get ready for the beratement, the hurt, the pain, the suffering, the name calling, the hate that it's not true that they hate you, but in that moment, oh my God. Yes. The guilt tripping. This is important that you get this. When you take that self-preservation, I can't have what I want, or I'm not going to do what you want. It's in that to how you survived. Now you're in the corner, you're licking your wounds and you're trying to figure out, again, how do I get what I want? How can I take care of that feeling that I want? So every time I'm exposed to life and it's less than love, it is to look at it, to unlearn and move forward. Well, the biggest one, that compulsionary had pushed me into the depths of my fucking hell. And the hells is what you want to heal. But you don't know where you put your joy. Okay. You lost it. You gave it away somewhere. And this is why you are mirroring out the rings of different, how close to your face to how far out it goes. And if you can't see it in your face, well, maybe you'll see it out here. So I had somebody come to my house and, oh God, great, attitude, personality, the looks, all of this, good sales technique. And if you produce the right hormone or frequency, you can produce the trust element, which causes people to trust and do things they don't want to do. So, and I said, Spirit, why are we doing this? And Spirit says, just watch. And I could feel how my mind was, oh, that makes sense. Oh, that makes sense. Oh yeah, my questions were answered. So I'm looking and I'm formulating yes, 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 yes. And there was no really no, because as I'm watching, as they're trying to sell the product, I didn't realize it until the end, they did a bait and switch. But the way that let's condemn the bad guy. Okay, the company you're with, they're gonna hurt you. I know. Here's some proof, whether it's true or not. And they always look for your sad story. Did you have any problems with them before? And then they work on it. And then again, it's the ability to weather your trust. And then how is it that, like, they wanted to sell us? We already have solar panels. They wanted to sell us more solar panels, 17 of them, and we have 7. It's like, wasn't that overkill? Be true to who you are. We wanted a battery. And they kept telling us how bad the batteries are, how they're going to change. Oh, I got some inside information you don't know. And I don't even own a battery. Whether it's true or not, the agenda of wanting a particular outcome, they're going to do whatever it is to say and to do to you. And in your mind, you're rehashing. And this is where you can get stuck in ego, or you can actually work with spirit to get an answer as you're rehashing. So both halves of you, both parts of you are working together to do this. In the end, we know that this person was only out for their agenda, their job. They're doing it very well. But like I said with spirit, I'm done doing that crap. And so I watched out for how they were talking, and Spirit kept pointing it out. And every time I had something very specific I wanted to ask, he started to learn my gestures, and he would switch the energy. And then all of a sudden I forget. So I excused myself and went to the bathroom, and I'm like, what? Spirit says, and basically hands the thread of the thought back. I went back out, I held, I focused, and then I could see that he knew that the question I was going to ask was something that he couldn't really answer. And so his body gestures were changing. I asked anyway. And then I asked two more after that. And he was clever. He was clever. And in the end, no, I did not fall for it. And my husband and I are like, no, thank you. First of all, you bait and switched us. We could see it now. No. But what about relationships, kids, partners, friendships? You're like, okay, it's time for me to go. Oh, I miss you. Guilt tripping. When you hear it enough and then other people use it, mimicry, and you're thinking, oh, that's great in a conversation called association. And your data bank is full of bits and pieces of guilt tripping and that you didn't even know was guilt tripping. Right? Gaslighting that you didn't even know was there. So when you start to watch your words, like, oh, that just kills me. Okay, change your words, because words are magical, and you don't have to know magic or be a witch. No, it's already part of the universe. When you sit there and you're mad at yourself, really? Are you mad? Do you have to be mad? What's going on with my eye? What words do you use? Do you guilt trip? Do you shame? Do you use a maneuver or a tactic like gaslighting yourself? Oh, I must be crazy. There's something wrong with me. What's going on? These words that are said to you based on how a person wants something, and you turn around and use them on yourself, it can get lost in translation, and you can be doing self-abuse without knowing you're doing self-abuse. So I grew up with a negative household, but I also grew up with a lot of guilt tripping, a lot of shaming, a lot of gaslighting, and to the point that it makes everybody crazy. And these words need to be broken down and seen and heal the emotion from it. My gallbladder meridian does not work on one side of my body. Obviously, my face is crooked, my spine's crooked, and I have been looking for that ultimate answer of understanding what's really happening. It can cause pain that you would not believe. And when I release them, like I could not walk. My feet hurt. Physically. Oh, ego says it's because you stood on that cement all day. Oh. Energetically, my body was going through something. And yes, all those things can contribute. But as you try to fix the physical on the outside, it does not fix the energy that's there. So I could barely walk in either of my feet. And it's like, what's going on? So, I knew that it was connected to my will. So the bladder meridian was off, but there was something else. And then finally, I keep seeing, and part of what I'm going to teach in the source point healing is that you have different things you can look at. You got the pins, you got the piss, they're different little words. And one of them is the story. And I said, whoa. My polarity's fine, but my body hurts. That means there's a polarity off. But if I were to check all the individuals, no. But if I check the story or I check the physical pain, I will actually see which polarity is telling the story. And you can heal it that way. All right. So then all of a sudden I corrected it, and I could feel the pain in my feet started to subside. My body started to feel better. My nerves weren't feeling quite attacked. And I'm like, what the? And so then my spirit said, basically, hey, hang on. And I'm like, what? You have to see the main thing about the gallbladder meridian. I didn't come out and say it that way. So it's like charades. So I'm like, all right. And all of a sudden, I started to go to the pit of hell. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. Bingo, write that down. Oh, the key words is I don't think I can do this. Bingo, I can't deal with other people's shit. Oh, God damn. And I could feel it. I could feel it. And then the outside was just getting worse. And it's like, I'm not, look, I want to stay away from the computer. Just don't talk on the phone. Don't just stop. Don't, okay. Can I run? My whole body just is like fight, flight, freeze. Okay. I didn't want to fight because it's like, all my life is like, I don't know how to. But what am I fighting about? Words. Gaslighting. In one of my marriages, it was so subtle. So subtle. It was behind a joke, but it was also behind gestures. My mother's eyes, beautiful, see-through blue. God, when she was angry, if looks could kill, you'd been dead. Fear of those eyes. And when I see actresses on TV, and they're very rare, it's like, oh, there's my mother's eyes. Okay. My body goes, oh. Then, gestures. Words. Again, you need to begin to notice how maybe one person intentionally did it, but it's all of how all the seeds were planted in the people, that when they heard that, they thought, oh, you know how you would watch the Brady Bunch and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to try that. And then you try it and it didn't work. And then you try another TV show and it didn't work. And then you watch all these. And then the next thing you know, it's like your friend says, hey, well, where have you been? I've missed you. No, there's nothing wrong with that. But then when you're trying to do something, they start to say nice things about a guilt trip. And maybe they're not quite there really guilt tripping you, but these are unnecessary statements and phrases that get passed on to everybody, that what happens is it affects almost everybody the same way. Okay, remember, you have the original gaslighter. These are the words, the guilt tripping, all of these things. And then the seeds get planted in the kids, or you're watching TV, and you're like, oh, now if you are highly suggestible, and usually we are, the RTJP is trying to think, what do people think? Oh, I'm going to try that. You don't know you're saying that, but then all of a sudden you'll go and you're trying to figure out how to outmaneuver, and you go and do it, and it works. I got a new tool. But you don't know. So when you get older and you start to do association, you reach down in your data bank to have an actual conversation with somebody, and you're like, what's the right thing to do here? Is that love? Is that integrity? Is that authentic? Is any of it? And you don't know that the seeds that you took from these gaslighters, and it sounds perfect, fine in a conversation, but what's happening is you're pushing a button that happens to be what's called in a flow. Now, these flows are part of how, like business flow, educational flow, and it has an operation that it works. You don't usually get to dictate it. It dictates you. This is like when people feel like life's a curse. That's in the flow. When you don't understand how to your empathy, that's in a flow. And so these are all these there. And but when that seeds are misused and they start growing in germ-like ways, what does that mean? If you feel like you're going crazy from the energies that are coming off because you deeply love somebody and they don't even know that they have been contagioned with that particular thing people have done. This is all we've done through these paradigms. If you're not aware that you feel, if you don't know the difference between guilt, shame, and this gaslighting, how you use your words, because you want a particular outcome, how you self-justify it. Now, here's the huge one. Here's the huge one. We take offense. And then we take offense because somebody told me to take offense. But the point is that how you know in your ego is when you feel this twang. Now, here's the kicker. This is huge. How many of you are trying to do the right thing in a relationship? So I had this person in my life before I even got married, not this last time, but the time before. And I never knew them, but it was like, oh, they're part of the family. So it's like, okay, I don't know, but they already hated me. They knew I was coming into the family. They already hated me. They're not even blood related. It was just horrifying. And I'd get there and I'd always feel this poison. I hate you. I could kill you. And they're smiling. And I'm like, what? I even had one of the family members admit to me, I am so sorry. I hated you. I wanted to kill you every time I walked into your house. What? My body read energy. My body was reading energy before my mind understood what energy I was reading. And I always felt this hate. I always felt this resentment. I was like, oh, Jesus. But the way their maneuvers were, the gaslighting, the slightest of words, and I would sit there and fall for it. And I noticed that the enemy, whatever they said, they took a truth and they mixed it up. And I couldn't understand because I wanted to do the right thing, the kind thing. And I'd always get lost in this gaslighting trip and that I beat the F out of myself. And then I couldn't make a stop. Oh my God, it was like they were lofty. They had controlled everybody and about the way they say things and the way they painted the picture. And it was like, I had to have them in my wedding. I had to have them here. I have to have them here. And it's like, I don't want them anywhere, but I don't want to be seen as the bad person, uncooperative. I didn't want to be seen that way. So I had that running. This is why you got to be consistent of who you are and learn these things about the difference between right and wrong, because those seeds of those things will make you even believe your own person, enemy, the people that have a particular outcome and they hate you and they're smiling at you anyway. And they're like, yeah, and then the way that they know how to deliver it. In the meantime, you feel like you're going crazy and you know that pain hurts. You're like, oh my God. But what do? You believe them and you sit there and you just mull it over and you mull it over and you mull it over and mull it over. And you're like, oh my God. And then the insanity begins. Why did I believe them? Why didn't I know not to believe them? It wasn't until I unlearned that all of a sudden I realized I do not have to believe them. How can I? And it was based on the feelings. It was based on how I thought about it. And I had to change my sentence in my head. I had to change my way that they knew the cues of how they were going to behave and how they were going to talk to me and how the right thing to do was I'm supposed to be nice 24/7. And so I've been learning since then how to stand up, how to speak, how to hold my ground. But what if you get challenged by someone that don't even know that they were planted by these viruses throughout this whole world, so they just assume that this is how life is and how they are put together, and they feel like they're crazy because they had gaslighters and guilt trippers do it to them and they had no idea, and then they could have picked up bad habits and passed it on. Okay, it's time for us to change that. So as I began to notice, the spirit says, hang on, I'm like, oh no. I mean, I know I signed up for it because I want to heal this out. I do not want to repeat this again. I am done repeating that shit. But I was married for 20 years and didn't even know I was being freaking gaslighted. When you begin to see it and you really begin to hone in on it and heal out the that makes you forget and then all of these emotions, as I began to tag my body and saying, do we have to really feel that? Do we have to do that? What happens is the benefit is these thoughts begin to change and your ability to learn something new begins to occur. So this last bit, it was like, I knew I was gaslighted. Okay, so I could feel it. Now, it's like this, you have a peripheral vision. Like I can't see my hands right now, except for looking at the camera. But if I turn my head, it's like right there. I can see this one. Still can't see this until I turn my head. But that's what it always felt like with the gaslighting, the guilt tripping, and all of the bullshittery, the way that they like to fight. That was the hugest thing when I left there is I need to know how you fight, because if that's the way you do, I don't want no part of it. Because I ain't playing that. Homie ain't playing that shit. But you can't see it. You can feel like something's right there and you're like, get it off me. And my body would do this compulsion, an automatic response. And I'm like, what are you doing, body? And my body, my mind were just not talking. Well, he screwed up. He screwed up in front of my friend. Very calculus, very watched everything. He always made sure it was part of the strategy, but he effed up. And the button was pushed that he installed, and there I go. Now, it was installed on top of the one I already had. So when you see somebody doing it, you just install one of yours on top of theirs. And boy, that person will just doubly do what you want. So it happened. And I could feel it. My mind was like, as I was waking up, my body's like, here it goes. And I'm like, and my whole physiology started to kick in. My body started to like, I got to run. I got to panic. I got to take care of this. We're going to die. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? And then he left the room and I says, my friend's sitting there. I says, oh my God. I says, I don't mean to include you this because it's the wrong thing to do. And she goes, what? And I said, can you describe what just happened? Because I know something happened, but I can't see it. But I feel like I'm going crazy. She says, well, yes, he gaslit you. What? My whole body, my ego was like, oh, ding, 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 put her back to sleep, put her back to sleep. I said, what? She said, gaslighting. I heard it again. Wait, what? No, I'm getting out of my program. Spiritually, I'm getting out of my program. And I picked up my pen and I can't even remember how to hold a pen. It was like my brain and my body was like going, oh, we don't know what's going on. And I'm like, oh, I finally figured out whatever. I've got you, little bitch. I'm going to write this down. And I'm like, I forgot I don't even know what letters look like. And she says, G. She was wanting me to write it for you. No, oh, just keep saying the word. And then my brain started to create a pathway. I'm like, oh God, I'm breaking through. I can feel it. And so I got the G. Now, by the time I finally wrote down gaslighting or gaslighter, I don't remember which one it was not my handwriting. And I was still stunned, but I was not going back to sleep. Now, the things that you can't see, that unconscious incompetent, when you finally get to hear it, nobody's the enemy. You may be astounded by what you hear, but it's now to you to heal this shit. I said, holy shit, I have no clue even what this is. And I didn't want to put myself back to sleep. So I began to witness and I began to look at that word and I said, show me spirit, show me spirit. I want out of ego. I want out of ego. Show me spirit. I just need help. I don't know how to do this. And all of a sudden my girlfriend had sent me. And now you talk about perfect timing. Okay, so now all of a sudden it's like, what is a gaslighter? I go, well, he's not that. He's not. Oh, he's that. Oh, no. Oh. And that's when I started to notice that you can't say a person is a full gaslighter if all they've learned was through the RTJP, little seeds of something that needs to be changed in the world. It doesn't, the sadisticness doesn't need to be in the world. The gaslighters of the world, how do you, and then I would be like, we'd be in a conversation and I would catch it. And I said, look, I'd rather be right than wrong. He says, well, I'd rather be, I said, I'd rather be kind than right. And I said, so are you telling me that you like to be an ego and you'd rather be than right than kind? And he says, yes. Well, that's the way you're supposed to do things. I'm like, wait, what? He doesn't know and I kept watching his body, that it was like, and he started putting himself back to sleep. And I'm like, so you'd rather use your tools, you're manipulating I don't manipulate, like your maneuvers cleverly to get what you want. Well, yes, that's what you're supposed to do. But it's not manipulating. No, I wouldn't do that. But you see that it's hurting me. Well, that's on you. Fair enough. Fair enough. I need to heal how I respond. You shouldn't have told me that. You should have not pointed that out. Because that's when I started to heal. And that's when he lost me. He could not see, nor did he want to, nor could he, because he was not part of my future. And so at this point, he already knew he didn't want to follow and be with me. And so he was independent of energy on his own. I'm like, I had to be the one to let go of this marriage. And I stopped doing the right thing and the loving thing, and to always tell myself how wonderful person he is. And because we were no longer in sync, and no longer were we ever going to get back in sync. We were out, and that was it. We were going two different directions, and that was it. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to dull myself and put myself back to sleep just so I can have a life. And so I ended up taking and healing my shit. I healed it. It's like I could feel how every day we would do this before I understood the gaslighting. My little girl self says, we don't trust you, fuck off. So I would put this guard over my heart that wouldn't let people in. And no longer did I want to be insane. No longer did I want to play these games that I could feel myself pushing away people that did not understand their behaviors, or that they were doing this. And I kept pushing this away because it's like, no, I need to distance myself before I lose it and feel like I need to go to a nut house. And I could feel it. I could feel it. I could see it now. It was more clear. No, I didn't go around going, No, that's just going to attract more shit. It's like, I got to not waste it. So when a person wants a particular outcome, they're going to change your behavior before you change yours. But if you don't understand that you're not a full-blown narcissist, because you're all born that way, and then we have all of these things on this planet, these flows, and you truly are a good person and you don't want to do that, you wake up to these particular habits. Shit. I hear what people say, I'm hurt by it, and I have to self-justify, and I have to mull it over, and it's like, especially when you don't know when an enemy is an enemy, and when the people you love don't even know that they're freaking doing that, you go in feeling in this insane aspect of yourself. Now, normally you just want, I only heal the insane, but in this case, you can't. You got to go to, I am hurt by the maneuver. I am falling for those words. And this is where, when you start to heal that, if they're meant to be in your space, they will come back differently. they won't even realize they're having a mandala effect happening. Meaning their words, their behavior around you doesn't show up. They can do it to other people, they just don't do it to you. But if they're not meant to be in your space, then they'll be forced to zig and you zag. But when that mirror is somebody you deeply love and you don't want to lose them, and you start to notice that you're compromising yourself, which is adjusting instead of adapting, then you've got one hell of a karma coming to come bitch slap you to next Tuesday. I just got what that meant. See you next Tuesday. Bitch slap you to next Tuesday. Clever there. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just say, see you next Tuesday. What does that mean? And I'll tell you. So when you're undoing this, so when I woke up and I heard that, yes, I cracked it, I says, oh my God, I have a word for it. You know all what I'm talking about when you know something's wrong with you and you go to the doctor and they tell you there's nothing wrong with you. And then finally they're like, oh, you got scoliosis. That's why you got pain there. Oh my God, I finally found an answer. It's like a relief. How to heal that. Your nervous system has picked up your environment and it just keeps picking up and translating it in the now. It picks it up and translating it now. But if you're holding on to certain maneuvers and behaviors that you're doing, it's time for you to heal them out. If you're affected by people's maneuvers and things like this, it's time to heal that out. And you can't do that unless you understand what it is that you're hearing and what you're doing. Yes, Claire, that's it. And it will feel like you're crazy, but don't believe it. The more healthy your brain is, the more happier life you'll have. But if your brain is programmed to things that you're not sure how you're programmed to, you will feel like you're crazy because your body's got to produce a certain amount of hormones, or the meridians have to do this dance. Now, how do you heal it? Again, you have to see it. You have to know how you produce yourself, how you are affected by how people talk. We have to start developing these social skills. It isn't about, you're the enemy, you're the enemy. No, we've done that enough. You have to go in here and change the nervous system so that your brain and you begin to produce something healthier. Okay. I think I've taken up my, see, I'm apologizing. Good Lord. Thank you very much for letting me spout out about this. And we have people here today that really need to communicate. And before I go on to them, I always like to say, if there's anybody new here, you get a 2-minute instead of a 1 minute. And if you want to be on the waiting list, then just go and message me and just say, yes, please. You can tell me where you're from. That's fine too. And what will happen is that we have our time stampers are in the room. I think I've seen about 2 of them there. But whoever's the time stampers, that way at the end, I appreciate all that they do. And then I will put them up at the beginning of my show when it's over. So I will look to see. Now, before I go any further, I want to know, did my message today make any sense to anybody here? Kelly says, when dealing with an erratic behavior, any way you decided to respond is not right, according to them. Correct. If it works once, it doesn't mean till it works again. Sounds like an idea born out of trauma. Yes. And this is where we have to really get to see all of this. It goes back to that one moment where you're a child and you want the particular outcome. I mean, the terrible twos. They don't know how to adjust. Nobody knows how to really self-regulate. Nobody's ever really been taught. And this is why it's important that we start to teach our kids, teach ourselves, unlearn and relearn and reparent ourselves and be able to stand in the integrity and the authenticity and the sovereignty of ourselves. But what do you do when you're holding your space and you have to work with other people? And that is where you have to understand the rings out of these mirrors. It is, wow, gaslighting is like huge. Guilt tripping is huge. And if you can begin to change that within yourself, you will change the people around you. There is so much energy and expressions, there certainly is, and it's just amazing. We are controlled by them without realizing it. And I want to apologize to anybody that I've ever done that to. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm saying I'm sorry, because I did not know the things I didn't know. And now that I begin to, which is the unconscious incompetent, and what I do know, I'm moving forward. I'm changing myself. That stuff is done and dusted. I don't need to go and rehash and then bring it up and rehash and exacerbate and rehash. I don't want to live there. Time to heal my shit and I can produce better. Okay. But it has to happen in here. And once we start to really change us, we can change out there. And those people are like, if you are afraid that you're going to lose somebody you love, you have to ask yourself, inside of you, where's my happy? Am I worth it? What can I do? You have to move past the fear, because if your brain is going, you won't, and you're asking these questions, you're never going to get the healthy answer. You got to learn how to balance your brain. Very, very important. Okay. All right. See, so I don't see anybody new in the room. Everything's good. Oh, good. People said it makes sense to them. Absolutely understanding. Good. I'm glad to hear that. So again, how do you get out of it? You have to see these little things in spiritual, like, so I'm like, thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Spirit. I can't see it. Thank you, Spirit, for showing me. Thank you, Spirit. Oh my God. Thank you, Spirit. And you will go up and down and up and down the scale of hell. But if your intention is that you're looking for the end result and you're not sure what that is yet, but you know that you and your relationship, you fired and wired your brain to do that enough times. Like when the body begins to be fired and wired as an athlete, you can measure a person's body by, yes, they're definitely an athlete. You can see that they're a tennis pro because of the way their bones are structured. Bones can tell you many things. Well, so does the muscles, so does other stuff. Now, and you pay attention. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to get caught back into that. Now, there are people that need me, and there was, we're going to bring on Gemma if you're here, and then after Gemma will be April. Okay, and then there's Kevin. All right, so that's the order into which I received. These other people paid me early. And it's like, Spirit, I wasn't going to come on today. Because Spirit says, you're in the middle of a lesson. And I'm like, holy crap. And I said, okay, I'm taking it all in. I see that I feel like I'm crazy. I was like, what's going on? I told my husband, I love you. I'm sorry. You're just going to have to let me go through this. I will be what I can do. Hopefully I'm not mean to you or any of this stuff. I just have to go through this. So I love my husband greatly. And so anyway, and I didn't know, and I stayed up till 4 a.m. because I couldn't. My body was like going, yeah, do you remember back in the day? And I'm like, oh, son of a bitch. And so then it just was like, okay, fine. I gave myself, don't do the show. And in reality, it was, you're going to talk about this subject today. I'm like, no, I'm not. Spirit says, you get something out of it. I'm like, I don't even want to go down this road. I am not even mentally capable of, I mean, at the point was like, I could see why I shut my heart off. It was just like, oh, now I understand why I've done that, why I could never feel. Oh, there you are, sweetheart. Yeah, I can't seem to get the right screen. So I'm going to put it through I'm just going to stick it right there. I'm trying to get it to come up. It's not working. So Yeah. When you feel like you're spinning your wheels in hell, you have to notice what was the button. What was the button? And it's just, you know, it just, some are easier to see than others. And sometimes you have to go, I've learned how to do everything in a whisper. And then when it has to go to these extremes, I know I'm going there. And I will go there and it's like, okay, now, did you want the camera off or on, Sweet Pea? Just want, there you go. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.